So when you talk of transfer taxes, we're talking about estate tax first, no? If we look at section 25 of our codals, no, estate tax, no, is determined by determining first the gross estate. And sabi nga natin, no, with anything gross, no, gross income, gross estate, gross gifts, we always determine first, we start first with what is to be included and what are to be excluded in the gross estate. So anong kasama sa gross estate? The question here is whether to include or to exclude the items in the gross estate. So if we look at section 85, no, the way that section 85 is structured is that there is a main paragraph and then there are subsections from A to H. No? So how do we differentiate? Let's look at section 85 main paragraph first. Sabi sa section 85, the value of the gross estate of the decedent shall be determined by including, so include that, the value at the time of his death, all property. So basta may namatay, anong kasama sa gross estate? All property, real or personal, tangible or intangible, wherever situated. Pero nakita nyo dun sa gitna, there is a proviso. Provided, however, in case of non-resident aliens, only that part which is situated in the Philippines is included in the gross estate. So, ibig sabihin, all others, no, for citizens, whether resident or not, and for resident aliens, all property wherever situated. It is only for non-resident aliens where we consider only that part which is situated in the Philippines. No? And let us remember the first part, the value to be included in the gross estate is that which is the value at the time of death. Actually, in estate taxes, mahalaga ang time of death. Bakit? Kasi death determines succession, di ba? The death is the cause of succession. It is at the time of death when the property or the rights thereto are transferred to the heirs. It doesn't matter kahit hindi pa nila napaghahati-hatian. Basta at the time of death, meron ng karapatan ang heirs doon sa properties. That's why it's the value at the time of death and it's the laws that are prevailing at the time of death that will govern the succession and consequently the estate taxes. So let's put this in a table format. So kung mapapansin nyo, kabaliktaran siya ng income taxes or it's the converse no, nung sa income taxes. Kasi sa income taxes, sa resident citizens lang ang considered ang within and without. All others, puro within. But look here, from section 85, dito sa estate taxes, for citizens and resident aliens, all properties wherever situated, within and without yan. Doon lang sa non-resident alien, i-consider yung properties located from within PH. Alright? So, paano naman yung subsections A to H? Okay, what do they mean? Look, parang sinasabi sa section 85 main paragraph, lahat na ng property, real, personal, tangible, intangible, isasama. So, ano pang ibig sabihin ng sections 85 or section 85 subsections A to H? So, let's say there is a property, no, a piece of land, a parcel of land na yung TCP or yung title is already in the name of the decedent. Syempre, kasama yon sa gross estate. So, let's say yung car na yung official receipt and certificate of registration in the name of the decedent, kasama yon. So, itong sections, section 85, subsections A to H, these pertain to properties that are not in the name of the decedent. However, by virtue of section 85, subsection A to H, we will add it back or we will include them in the gross estate. So, let's go through each and every one kasi nga ito yung malamang isasama sa bar exam this year. So, first is 85A, decedent's interest. So, this is the interest of the decedent at the time of death, but take note, it is not in the name of the decedent yet. So, for example, share in partnership assets. 'Di ba sabi natin sa partnership, one of the ways of dissolving a partnership is by death of one of the partners. So dissolve na yung partnership, pero hindi pa na-distribute yung share ng partners sa kanila or sa kanilang heirs. So ibig sabihin, the estate of the decedent has an interest in the partnership at the time of death. So isa yon sa example. Add it back or include it in the gross estate. Another is dividends already declared on shares owned by the decedent but not yet distributed or paid out, 'di ba? Meron ng right yung decedent doon sa dividends. But at the time of his death, it was not yet distributed. Wala pa sa kanya, wala pa sa bank account niya. So that is an example of decedent's interest. Alright? Next, includable properties despite inter vivos transfer. So 85B, transfer in contemplation of death, and 85C, revocable transfer, are already transferred by the decedent. So wala na sa pangalan niya. Sabi natin, subsections A to H are no longer in the name of the decedent. However, they are to be added back or to be included in the gross estate. Ano yung transfer in contemplation of death? Is it sufficient that, let's say, the decedent was suffering from a terminal illness when the property was transferred kasi transfer niya in contemplation of death? Or for example, no, na naginip siya or binangungot siya that magkakaroon ng plane crash. So, anticipating a possible tragedy, transfer niya because nabangungot siya, na mamamatay siya. Would those suffice as transfers in contemplation of death? The answer is no. Let's read section 85B. Ano ang kailangan, no? So, take note, 'di ba? Nakasulat dito sa may gitnang bahagi or middle part of 85B, under which he has retained for his life or for any period which does not in fact end before his death, 1, the possession or enjoyment of or the right to the income from the property, no, or the right to designate the person who shall possess the property or the income therefrom. So ibig sabihin, another requirement for it to be a transfer in contemplation of death, dapat kahit nilipat na ni decedent yung property sa iba dahil nga naisip niya mamamatay na siya soon, ni-retain pa rin ni decedent for in his possession or enjoyment or the right to the income of the property. Okay, so that's a requirement. Next, revocable transfer, an example would be a sale with the right to repurchase, di ba? Kasi, well, if you remember your sales, we have ways of extinguishing sales, conventional and legal redemption. And in conventional redemption, it is a way of exercising the right to repurchase which extinguishes the original sale. Diba? So, binenta mo muna sa iba, pero may right to repurchase. Take note, a right to repurchase is part and parcel of the original contract of sale. So, when it is exercised, it actually extinguishes the original sale. Kasama yon. So, if there is a revocable transfer clause or provision in the contract of sale, control is still exercised by the seller in the sense na he has a right to repurchase anytime the property. So, in that case, when it is a sale, no, with right to repurchase, or which is an example of a revocable transfer, transfer na ni seller yung property kay buyer. However, since there is a revocable transfer, it should be included muna in the gross estate of the seller. Okay? Next, other properties that are also included would be a property passing under a general power of appointment. When we talk of a general power of appointment, it means that the decedent was the one appointed. Hindi siya yung nag-appoint. Bakit? Kasi sabi dito, to the extent of any property passing under a general power of appointment, exercised by the decedent. this means that the decedent was the one appointed. So later we will have an example of this problem. Ibig sabihin ng general power of appointment, the decedent as the appointed one has the power to designate anybody to succeed him. Whereas kung special power of appointment, the one who made the appointment upon the decedent specified as to whom the decedent can transfer the property. Alright? So, dahil yung power or yung control was retained by the one who made the appointment, the property should be excluded from the gross estate of the decedent. But if it's a general power of appointment, meaning it's the decedent who can designate anybody, pwede niya i-transfer kahit kanino, ibig sabihin si decedent ang nag-e-exercise ng control over the property. That means, dapat i-include sa estate niya. Alright? Next, proceeds of life insurance. For it to be included in the gross estate, dapat the beneficiary is the estate, whether the designation is irrevocable or not. But if the beneficiary is other than the estate, the designation must be revocable before it is to be included in the estate. If the beneficiary is other than the estate and the designation is irrevocable, then the proceeds of life insurance would be excluded from the gross estate. Okay? Next, transfers for insufficient consideration. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Something was sold by the decedent. However, it was sold for insufficient consideration. No? So, ibig sabihin, it was not a bona fide sale for adequate and full consideration in money or money's worth. So, are we going to add back the entire value of the property? No, we will only add back. Now, there should be included in the gross estate only the excess of the fair market value at the time of death, no, over the value of the consideration received. So let's give an example. No, let's say a property that is worth 10 million pesos was sold for only 8 million pesos. So not a bona fide sale siya. So let's say 3 years later, the seller died and the property is now worth 15 million pesos. So the question is, what do we include in the gross estate? Remember, it's the selling price, no? The difference between the selling price and the fair market value at the time of death. Not the time of sale, ha? Fair market value at the time of death. Ibig sabihin, 15 million less 8 million, 7 million ang i-add back natin sa gross estate. And then, we have a share of the, or capital of the surviving spouse. For purposes of determining gross estate, it is to be included in the gross estate. No? However, remember, in the computation lang yun. But remember, look at this one. The capital of the surviving spouse of a decedent shall not be deemed a part of his or her gross estate. No? So, hindi na natin siya isasama. Alright? Sorry, pakikat yung H. No, I'll just repeat that. Okay. Next. So, for letter H, capital of the surviving spouse, in the tax code, it says, the capital of the surviving spouse of a decedent shall not be deemed part of his or her gross estate. So, it is to be excluded. All right? Next, for the deductions, no? So for the computation of the net estate, which will be subjected to estate taxes, now we have to consider the allowable deductions for this one. As you can see, in the right part of the table, may dalawang column. We have the column for the citizens and resident aliens, and then we have the column for non-resident aliens. Why is there a difference? Because remember, for citizens and resident aliens, we have to include all properties wherever situated. Whereas for non-resident aliens, only that portion which is located in the Philippines are to be included in the gross estate. So for standard deduction for citizens and resident aliens, it's 5 million. And for non-resident aliens, it's 500,000. For standard deductions, there's no need for substantiation, so it does not need to be supported by receipts and other pieces of evidence regarding the deduction. Basta binibigay na yan as long as there is a decedent, right? Next, for claims against the estate, it is required to be notarized in order for it to be allowed as a deduction. Remember, deductions are construed strictly against the taxpayer. So pag may hindi na meet na requirement, it will be disallowed. Okay? So for claims against the estate, the loan document, no, or the claim document should be notarized. If the loan was obtained within 3 years from the time of death, the executor or administrator must show how the proceeds of the loan were disposed. No? So this is claimable as a whole for citizens and resident aliens, but for non-resident aliens, yung proportion lang na related doon sa properties located in the Philippines. Okay? Next, for claims against insolvent. So ito baliktad naman. It's the decedent who has a receivable. Unfortunately, yung may utang sa decedent, insolvent na. So hindi na niya yon makokolekta, right? So how do we account for this? First, include the claims against insolvent in the gross estate. And then we allow it as a deduction from the gross estate so that the net effect is just zero, no? Kasi kung i-include lang natin yung claim as a deduction, edi magne-negative pa yun, babawas pa siya sa ibaba, di ba? So it must be included first in the gross estate and then deducted as a deduction, allowed as a deduction, para ang net effect niya is zero. Alright? Next, for unpaid mortgages, include the property in the gross estate first, and then include the unpaid mortgage as an allowable deduction to the estate. So for example, yung condo natin kanina na worth 10 million, di ba? So let's say during the lifetime of the decedent, naghulog siya ng mga around 6 million na yung nahulog niya. So may natitira na lang na 4 million pesos doon na unpaid mortgages. How do we account for that? Include the condominium na 10 million sa gross estate. But in the allowable deductions, allow a deduction for unpaid mortgages of 4 million pesos. So ganun siya. Right? Next, property previously taxed. Ito, isa to sa mga favorite ng mga ating bar candidates, no? Vanishing deduction, otherwise known as vanishing deduction. Bakit? Ano yung mga requisites first before there is allowed a vanishing deduction? First, there is an interval of no longer than 5 years between a previous transfer and the current death of the decedent. Now, bakit 5 years? Kasi di ba meron yung timeline na kapag below 1 year, 100% deductible. 1 to 2 years, 80%, and then 60, 40, then 20%, and then it completely vanishes if beyond 5 years already. Next requisite is that there must be a previous gratuitous transfer. So, either by death, no, siya yung nagmana, or dinonate sa kanya. Basta gratuitous transfer. And the third requirement is that the tax, no, the estate or the donor's tax should have been paid in the previous transfer. So, the way this works is that the government allows a vanishing deduction because the presumption is kakabayad mo lang ng tax tapos magbabayad ka na naman ulit ngayong namatay yung recipient, no? Yung heir or yung donee. Kaya inaalaw ng government yung vanishing deduction. Take note for vanishing deduction, it is fully deductible whether for citizens or aliens, including non-resident aliens. No need to make it proportion. Okay? Next is transfers for public use, so donations to the government are fully deductible. Okay? Next would be deduction for family home. Please see the sample computations in Revenue Regulations 12-18. By the way, if you want to remember this very quickly, I only have 2 tips for you for family home. First is that for every decedent, the limit is only up to 10 million pesos, no? For the citizen or resident alien decedent, hanggang 10 million pesos lang yung deductible. And second, you have to consider whether the property is conjugal, part of absolute community, or it is exclusively or singularly owned by the decedent. Bakit? No, so like for example, there is a property or the family home, no? And the requirement is that it must be certified by the barangay captain as the family home. So for example, the family home is worth 12 million pesos and is owned either exclusively by one of the spouses, the spouse who died, or by a decedent who is single, no? So how much will you allow as a deduction for family home? Hanggang 10 million lang. Kahit na yung value ng bahay ay 12 million, kasi ang limit natin ay hanggang 10 million lang. Okay? But how about if the property is worth 15 million and it is a conjugal property? How much will be the deduction? Siyempre, you have to divide it by 2 first. So, ibig sabihin, each spouse owns 7.5 million share in the conjugal family home. So, the allowable deduction would be only up to 7.5. Now, 7.5 million lang yung pwedeng i-deduct. Alright? So, yun lang yung 2 reminders sa family home. The ultimate limit is 10 million pesos, and do consider if it is conjugal or exclusive property. Right? And then last, no, for deductible, allowable deductions would be the retirement benefits received by the heirs under RA 4917. Okay? So some reminders on estate taxes. Notice of death is no longer required for estate taxes. And the requirement to file an estate tax return is required in all cases of transfers regardless of value where the decedent was domiciled. No? So this means that if, let's say, the estate is comprised of only one property, but it's a parcel of land, and that is a registered property, di ba? So let's say it's worth 3 million pesos. Does the estate need to file an estate tax return? The answer is yes. Kahit sabihin mong covered naman yun ng standard deduction na 5 million o wala naman palang babayaran eh. Nonetheless, the rules state that in all cases of transfer of registrable property, no, there is a need to file an estate tax return regardless of value. Okay? Another requirement is that the gross estate, if worth more than 5 million pesos, it needs to be certified by a CPA. Okay? And the estate tax return is to be filed and paid within 1 year from the date of death. An extension may be allowed with the permission of the Commissioner of Internal Revenue. And in case the estate is not liquid, payment by installment may be allowed within 2 years from the statutory date of payment. Not time of death, ha? Within 2 years from the statutory date of payment. Okay? So let's put this to the test. Let's take this example from the 2009 bar exams. So the principles stay the same kahit na 2009 pa to, no? Walang pagkakaiba. In 1999, Xavier purchased from his friend Yuri, that's important, from his friend Yuri, a painting for 500,000. Fair market value at the time of purchase was 1 million. Yuri paid all the corresponding taxes on the transaction. In 2001, Xavier died. And in his last will and testament, Xavier bequeathed the painting, which is now worth 1.5 million, to his only son. Itong next part, mahalaga to. The will also granted Xandro the power to appoint his wife, no, Wilma, as the successor to the painting in event of Xandro's death. So this one, in-indicate ni Xavier kung kanino lang pwedeng ilipat ni Xandro yung painting. So that's why it's a special power of appointment, not a general power of appointment. All right? So in 2007, Xandro died and Wilma succeeded to the property. Okay? So should the painting be included in the gross estate of Xavier in 2001 and thus be subject to estate tax? Explain. The answer is yes. The painting must be included in the gross estate of Xavier, right? According to the tax code, all properties of resident citizens, now, real, personal, tangible, intangible, wherever situated, should be included in the gross estate of the decedent and subjected to estate tax. Okay? Next, should the painting be included in the gross estate of Sandro in 2007 and thus be subject to estate tax? Ang sagot ay no. The painting should be excluded from the gross estate of Sandro, considering that it is passing under a special power of appointment. No? Under the tax code, only property passing under general powers of appointment are to be included in the gross estate of the decedent. In the instant case, di ba, Xavier specifically mentioned that Sandro can only appoint his wife Wilma as successor to the painting in the event of Sandro's death, in which case that makes it a special power of appointment. Therefore, the painting must be excluded from the gross estate of Sandro. No? So next, may a vanishing deduction be allowed in either or both of the estate? No? So the answer here is, in the case of Xavier, the answer is no. Why? Because ang kulang sa kanyang requirement is that he did not acquire it gratuitously. Look at the problem. Xavier purchased it from his friend. So onerous transfer yung pagkakasama ka sa estate ni Xavier. So hindi pwedeng may vanishing deduction. The second one, now may a vanishing deduction be allowed in the estate of Xandro? The answer is also no, because it was not includable in the estate of Xandro in the first place. No? So, nung natanggap siya ni Sandro, oo, gratuitous transfer kasi minana niya. But nonetheless, it wasn't included in his gross estate. Therefore, a vanishing deduction should also not be allowed in his estate. All right? Next, for donors' taxes, there are generally two types of donations. First would be the direct donations where donative intent is necessary. Guys, please take note of the Civil Code provisions on the requirements of a valid donation. No valid donation, no donor's tax. Okay? The second one would be indirect donations wherein they are transfers for insufficient consideration. Donative intent is not necessary. However, please see section 100 because there is an exception as regards bona fide and arm's length transfers. So what is this? So generally, if something is sold for insufficient consideration, the assumption is that it is an indirect donation, therefore subject to donor's tax. However, if the transfer, even if insufficient as to consideration, but if it is a bona fide transfer and done at arm's length, meaning it is done in the ordinary course of business, or that the parties are not related, ibig sabihin, hindi mo ka mag-anak, hindi mo ka ano-ano, talagang binenta mo lang ng mas mababa sa value niya. Donor's tax is not applicable on the transaction. Okay? The value of the property at the time of the donation will be the basis for the computation of donor's tax. Okay? So other things that we must take note of under donor's taxes. Contributions for election campaigns under the tax code are not subject to donor's tax. However, they are governed by the Omnibus Elections Code. No? A donor's tax is not a property tax, but is a tax imposed on the privilege of transferring the property by gift inter vivos. Kanina, I already mentioned this. Please take note of the requirements before a donation will be valid. And what happens if one of the heirs renounces his or her share in the estate? Will that be subject of donor's taxes? The answer is, it depends. If the heir renounces his or her share by making a general waiver, meaning sabi niya, ayoko, hindi ko kailangan yan, no? That is not subject to donor's taxes. A general waiver or a general renunciation will not subject such waiver to donor's taxes. However, a renunciation made by an heir in favor of another specific person that will be subjected to donor's taxes. So let's say si panganay, no, sabi niya, ay yung share ko sa estate ng ating mga magulang, ibigay na lang kay bunso. Okay? So that will be subject to donor's taxes because it's as if si panganay, dinonate niya yung share niya kay bunso. No? Alright? So this one is from the 2020-2021 Best Bar Ever. Kaya sabi natin mahalagang malaman yung requirements of a valid donation. So after finally passing the bar exams, a new lawyer was given an engagement ring worth 1 million pesos. So dito na tayo sa second paragraph. Being an avid supporter of the current government, the new lawyer told the significant other that the gift would only be accepted if all taxes due have been paid. So is there any liability arising from the giving of the engagement ring? Explain briefly. The answer is no, there is no donor's tax liability from the engagement ring, considering that it was not accepted by the lawyer. So, under the civil code, di ba? Civil code to. Tapos, enumerate the requisites of a valid donation, including the acceptance of the donee. No? Considering that there is no valid donation, in the instant case, donor's tax will also not attach. All right?